What's up YouTube, welcome to the video. Today we're going to have a good look at some 1/8 scale monster truck wheels and tyres. The sort of stuff you're going to put on your big bash truck, nitro monster truck, HPI Savage, Savage Flux, Thunder Tiger MTA4, losi LST, those sorts of things. This is just a selection from my collection. A lot of them are older, but it doesn't make them any less relevant, the considerations, and hopefully this will give you a good overview of what's available, how that might affect your truck, if that's what you want or not what you want. So let's jump right in. And as you're probably getting used to right now, we like to weigh things. Right, first thing I'm going to get is just one of the standard HPI Savage wheels from back in the day, Savage 25. And let's get some dimensions on it. So 85 millimeters wide and about 155 diameter, and that's a heavy one at 368 grams. Now these wheels and tyres I think are a really good compromise. Those thick but soft blocks deform really well over rough terrain and give you a huge amount of traction. The overall softness of the tyre really bites in under power, but also steering, and when you're trying to change direction you can see that it twists, absorbing a lot of the weight of the truck and biting into the ground, and actually gets you the turn or motion you want, or up a slope, or lands a jump. Just if you push your thumb down, you just see those treads just come together and essentially lock around the ground. The drawback is the weight. At 370 grams a corner, it takes a lot to get these spinning, a lot to slow them down, and a lot to change direction. Every other rib on the side is pretty good for cornering, doesn't bite in too much, flipping the truck over, which is quite important. You don't want it to just dig into the ground and tip your truck over. Yeah, and the thickness of the rubber as well is quite good against sharp stuff. Don't see too many tears in this tyre. Pretty good all round, but dynamically a bit slow because of the weight. And let's look now at what HPI consider a performance tyre for the Savage then, which is the dirt bones on that other rim. So HPI dirt bones. These often came with not just as an option for the Savage, but for the trophy Truggy as well, because it is very much a Truggy racing pattern. Lots of thin little bones. You can feel the rubber is a lot thinner, and the foam insert is mainly providing the support here. Let's get the measurements on it. A bit narrower, 80, let's just say it's 83 millimeters, and the diameter is a bit smaller at 14.5 centimeters, and we'll get the weight. .226, so much lighter on these. If you imagine across the truck, 4 wheels and tyres, you're saving nearly half a kilo, which is just huge. That's a huge amount of weight to save, and dynamic weight as well, accelerating, braking, spinning these up, you can even just feel in your hand how much easier that is for the truck. And that really translates to how your truck drives. You've got a lot more acceleration and a lot more dynamic changeability. But what it can upset though is the center of gravity. If you're running a high truck like a Savage or one of the monster trucks, without that weight in the wheels, the truck can be more inclined to tip over. So you probably want to soften your suspension and have the sag set a bit lower just to make the most of that. Now these little blocks actually perform really well because they don't provide that much rolling resistance, so they don't bite in and tip the truck over. But in the same vein, you know, they don't do well in soft mud or wet conditions, or not particularly well over rocks, and they're thinner as well, so these are much more suited to like hard pack, sparse grass, dusty, open conditions. They do really well at speed though, so if you've got a lot of open area and high-end performance, if you imagine like the speed of the wheel rotating, even though the blocks are small, the amount of blocks hitting the ground faster amounts to a lot of rubber, whereas the thick blocks are really good at slow speed because it's moving slower and getting that much rubber into contact with the ground. So that's what HPI offer as their solution to making the Savage much more sporty and dynamic. We'll go to another manufacturer now, Thunder Tiger. Now this in practice is one of my favourite monster truck tyres to use. I find it to be really one of the best all-round bashing tyres. Does everything really well. And let's get the dimensions on it. So they've gone thinner again. We're down at like 81 millimeters now. A bit taller, I think. They've gone to the 17 centimeters. But the weight is reasonable, which I can feel. 330. So still not as heavy as the OEM Savage tyre. A bit bigger, but a bit narrower. And one of the reasons this tyre works so well is because of that rounded profile. So it can carry a lot of high speed because as the tyre balloons, you're just running on the centre treads. But as you turn in, it allows the suspension geometry to get that contact patch into the ground. It allows that turn in because of the curve profile. Doesn't bite in too hard. And I find all round dynamically these work really well on bashing. Open areas, tight areas, rocks, soft ground, hard ground. Just out of all the testing and bashing I've done, which is a lot, just found these to be really good. And that's why I keep them around. They're off a Thunder Tiger, the MTA4 S50 with the 17mm hex, and their MTA4 G3 and the MT2 G3, some of their brushless models, the bashing Truggys they used to offer. These H patterns are good as well. They provide quite a big block on hard ground, so if you imagine the contact rests over the top, but as they deform, the hole in the H allows that tread to be very soft as well if it's getting deformed. So works well running at high speed where it's sort of skimming over the surface or hard ground, but also has quite a lot of bite because if it loses that surface grip, it will bite in. The corner treads as well, lots of little ribs, spreads the load, doesn't bite in too much. You can feel they're quite soft, so doesn't tip your truck over, but does still have quite a lot of corner grip, but not too much bite. that's good. High speed cornering, you want it to have the grip but not so much bite, although these work well at both because of that deformation. So if you turn in hard, they will soften, deform and give you the bite, but if you're going at high speed, it's just giving you the deflection grip. Good wheel and tyre this. Okay, let's look at something aftermarket. Now these are really popular. They're Proline Big Joes, long running tyre, and the size on this one is in inches. They measure them 6.39 by 42.25. That translates to a whopping 107.5 millimeters wide, 16 centimeters diameter. Let's check the weight of them. 402. This is on a 14mm hex rim, but they're available as tyres and on all sorts of various different rims. So heavy, soft, great high spec compound there, but look at that squareness on it. Now that's got to look when it's on the truck. 4 of those looks pretty mean. How does it drive? Shit. Drive really bad. Why? Because when you're trying to turn, the geometry can't do anything. When the suspension's moving up and down, it can't do anything because there's nothing. As it turns like this, you just lose all the contact patch and you're just on the corner because you've got no curve there. And then when you're in a straight line, it needs a lot of power to overcome that rolling resistance of just steamroller tyre basically. I mean, they do have a motion to them, and it can be quite comic and in fun. I have enjoyed these for the comic motion they give on the truck because it wobbles around, looks high, bashes into things. A bit like actual monster trucks from Monster Jam, with a bit of that awkward motion they get from these, but dynamically not really great. I think one of they've gone with like the low profile to save on weight. That's in its favour, and give it that look with the big rim. Soft compound as well. These really do deflect really easily over stuff. They're great on rocks, loose ground. If you've got high power, gravel surfaces, definitely good at that. And the top compound is top notch. That Proline rubber compound. You know, Proline make a lot of racing tyres. They really know about their different compounds, and you can feel it, and it translates to, you know, absolutely mind-bending grip on the ground and performance. So I would say these are high performance, but they are compromised by the square edgeness of them. So maybe consider getting a narrower option if you want to keep that higher speed dynamics and direction changeability. Don't go for one of these really wide square ones unless you just want that look, or you're happy more in like a crawling type grinding mud bog environment. Then it can be good. Again, we've got the cutouts in the tread, and those are so that it can roll over ground, but as well as deflect. They help it deflect and bite in, but not as much cutout, not as much deflection. Proline Big Joe. Right, let's go with another brand, or let's stick with Proline actually and look at the Road Rage. So this is the more road tarmac specific tread. They've kept that square edge profile, gone a bit more rounded over the shoulder of the tyre. just an example of different look you could have for your truck. Good for speed runs, nice soft compound, good deflection in the tread blocks, central rib. As the tyre's ballooning, you're going to be riding on that rib. So good for speed runs, tarmac areas, that kind of thing. And they've kept a lower profile for that, which should keep the weight at 260. So good road tyre, good weight on it. This is actually going to give you performance if that's your environment. Lots of cutouts as well, so even in the wet on the tarmac that'll be pretty good. And that's the Proline Road Rage. Okay, now we'll go to this other manufacturer, which is you don't see them around too much, but this is the IMEX Jumbo Max. Now this is a pretty gnarly monster truck looking tyre. We talked about square profile before, but this is over square. I think possibly wider than the diameter. Let's see. So this is massive at 124 millimeters, and but the diameter is just alright. It's not over square. It's 150. These are. Let's get the weight. Whoa, 484. So this is monster truck only. Got a look though, hasn't it? Look pretty mean. Those huge side blocks. That is going to give you bashing performance. If you're in a quarry, on a scree slope, in the gravel, these are going to dig in and get you that traction out of there. This is the kind of sidewall that gets you out of a problem. But where does a square top like that get you into the problem? Probably. Good compound, good deflection. Back to that original HPI Savage tyre concept, so you've got big gaps between the tyres. This is going to clear mud really well and allow space for that deflection, which should give you decent bite. I'm going to get these on a crawler actually and see what they do, because that is going to bite in quite well, and these definitely on the shoulder will allow you to get that traction grip up something. On an actual bash truck or speed truck, the weight is going to be a big problem. The rolling resistance, that's just going to slow you down. So these are kind of more for show, more for that slow speed bogs and mud and terrain, and not so much for the big power or speed run type vehicles. I can fully imagine as soon as you turn, if you're doing any kind of speed, that truck's just gonna flip itself out on these wheels. Look good though, look at that huge dish. That's mega dish there. That's on the Hobao monster rim. Right, IMEX Jumbo Max. So what else did HPI do further down the line of Savage X 4.6 when they went to the 17mm hex? They changed the tyre they issued with it as well. I think to take on board some of what was going on with the feedback. So let's get the width on this. 83, which I think was the same as before. 155, which I think was the same as before. And the weight is 303. So they got the weight down on these later generation wheels. And I think they've done that through thinner rubber and lower profile tread. which has made them a bit lighter. And some things they've changed here, so they've gone with that completely solid central rib. Now where that works, as I was saying, as the tyres balloon up under power, you're actually just riding on that rib, and that is a narrow, low rolling resistance but high traction rib, which allows you to get up to those top speeds pretty quickly. It helps the truck accelerate and be at top speed efficiently. You've got a lot of mud clearance gaps, which is great because, you know, when your tread clogs up with mud, that just messes up the dynamics of your truck massively. And they've gone with these different shapes to aid deformation, but not through frontal softness, maybe from as you dynamically push into things. So those cutouts there allow a bit of support from that rib, but it to fold in, and then the zigzag is the same. It gives it that supported but cushioning loading from the front. And again, they've spread out on the shoulder so that there's less treads on the shoulder, which won't bite in too hard, and they're quite low profile actually, considering that first Savage tyre, which I think I'm going to get to compare here to show you. This is the first iteration, and you see how much lower profile they've gone. Again, like I said, these big treads were heavy. So this is an evolution of that tyre. They've kept the principles, changed things in a bit of a different way, and these actually perform really well all round, like those Thunder Tiger tyres. They allow you to get up to high speed, control high speed, they turn in well, the narrowness and the shoulder profile, you know, keep those wheels spinning and keep you moving, sort of skipping over the surface, and up really gnarly terrain too. Not such great bog climbers or grip tyres, but they handle the performance of brushless power or high speed nitro power well. Forgot the name of these. They got a name, they haven't put it on it, but that's the HPI racing tyre from later generation Savages. And to finish on, I'm just going to show you a random tyre. Had a few sets of these come through. I'm not sure the manufacturer. No markings. Interesting tread pattern. I think mainly for styling purposes. Got a pretty cool futuristic cyberpunk look. Don't really think much design's gone into the performance of them, although the cutouts do have deformation properties. You've got channels to dissipate water. They're not going to dissipate mud. This tire is just going to clog up really quickly. But that flatness and tread might have been more orientated for tarmac and street. Definitely got a good look to it. Very square. Not much side rib going on at all for side bite traction. Looks very much like a Proline wheel they used to offer, and the dimension on these are 155. The width is a big 105, and the weight is 430. And for those wondering why is that hole so big, that is a 23mm hex. So one of the upgrade options for a lot of these trucks, offered by Proline and I think some other aftermarket manufacturers, but you can get those hexes up to 23mm, and they are less prone to rounding out and allow you to put a lot more power down. If you're going big power, I would get your system over to 23mm. 17mm hexes, they do round out pretty easily, especially with the power we can put through the trucks now. 23mm hexes is a good upgrade. That keeps that traction going, and you're much less likely to be going home with a stripped hex. So there you have it. If you want that show look, I quite like these for the static show look, but I can't offer any information on where to get them from or what they are. So that's it. That's an overview of a load of monster truck wheels and tyres. Some of the differences, some of the things I've learnt, some of the dimensions. I hope that's of use to know about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What's best for you, how you ride, on what terrain, what do you think works, what doesn't work, what are you riding today?